Let's get a divorce," she said on a weekend morning, holding the coffee I had just brewed for her. Her tone was calm, chillingly so. I lowered the newspaper and looked at my wife, the woman I had loved for 7 years and been married to for 5. The deepest pain, it turns out, often arrives in the most ordinary moments. What surprised me even more was hearing myself reply in an equally steady voice. "All right, for the loneliness." The coffee cup in her hand trembled slightly. "I want to divorce you." Amidst the faint aroma of coffee, the words sliced through the quiet of the morning like a razor. My hand holding my own mug paused. Hot liquid splashed onto my skin, but I felt nothing. This was the 1823rd morning of my 5-year marriage to Anna. Usually, she would still be asleep at this hour, and I, as always, would have prepared her favorite single-origin roast from our local spot. "Why?" I heard myself ask, my voice unervingly calm. In truth, I had seen the answer to that question with perfect clarity for the past 3 months. Anna looked down, her long fingers tracing the rim of the cup. She had put on makeup today, skillfully concealing the dark circles under her eyes. The cherry-colored lipstick made her look even more vibrant. It was the look she always wore when she met Ethan. "We're not in love anymore," she said, her gaze drifting out the window. The October sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, outlining her slender profile in a soft halo. I put down my coffee and walked to the study. In the bottom drawer of my desk lay a stack of printed-out chat logs and photos, a chronicle of her and Ethan's life over the last 3 months. Afternoons in cafes, evenings by Puget Sound, late nights at bars. In every picture, her smile was so radiant. I had originally intended to use this as leverage to confront her, but now it seemed unnecessary. "Is it because of Ethan?" I asked, walking back into the living room with the folder in my hand. The sunlight was just as bright, but now it felt piercing. Anna's body visibly tensed. She snapped her head up, a flash of panic in her eyes that was quickly replaced by anger. "You spied on me." I placed the folder on the coffee table. "I didn't have to. Every place you two went, they were our places. You just swapped out the leading man." Her fingers trembled slightly as she flipped through the pages. I knew she was looking for the intimate pictures, but she would soon find only the most ordinary photos of their dates. "I'm sorry," her voice dropped. "I never meant for it to get like this." "Don't explain." I cut her off. "You chose me back then. Now you have regrets and want a second chance. It's normal." "You're so calm." Anna looked up, a hint of disbelief in her eyes. "I thought you'd scream or beg." I walked to the window, watching the morning joggers on the street below. That wouldn't change anything, would it? I could hear her sharp breaths behind me. Perhaps she wanted to see my pain, or maybe she needed my anger to assuage her own guilt. But I wouldn't give her any of it. "The divorce papers. I'll have my lawyer draft them. The condo is yours. I'll take the car." My voice remained even. "Any other demands?" "Noah," her voice choked a little. "Aren't you even a little bit sad?" Sunlight cut across the floor, casting long shadows. 5 years ago, in this same season, under the same sun, we dreamed of our future. I remember her saying she wanted to count every dust mote in the morning light with me. "Let's go to the courthouse tomorrow," I said, turning to face the woman I once loved so deeply. "While I still remember how much I loved you." She shot up from the couch, her heels clicking sharply on the hardwood floor. I thought she was going to say something, but she just grabbed her purse and hurried to the door. The sound of her shoes striking the floor was like a countdown to the end of our marriage. Thump! The door slammed shut. Her perfume still lingered in the air, but it felt suffocating. I sat on the couch for a long time, until the vibration of my phone pulled me back to reality. It was a text from Ethan. "Sully, man, but I have to follow my heart." I looked at the message and suddenly laughed. Follow my heart? What a noble excuse. He just didn't know that some hearts get shattered in the process. The sun was still warm, but I knew, from this day forward, my world would be cold. I stood up and began to pack away our memories, one by one. The photos, the letters, the pictures of us together, and the engagement ring hidden in a small compartment of the media console. I had bought it to propose to her again on our anniversary next week. I wanted to tell her that my love for her hadn't faded one bit in 5 years. None of that mattered now. I sent a text to my mother. Mom, Anna and I are getting a divorce. My phone buzzed almost immediately. I knew she would be worried, but right now, I didn't even have the strength to console her. The sun shifted, stretching the shadows across the living room. Standing by the window, looking at the home we decorated together, I suddenly realized that sometimes love really does just disappear without a trace. Like the faint scent of coffee in the air, it was destined to dissipate in the morning light. I couldn't sleep that night. At 3 a.m, I stood on the balcony and lit a cigarette. The city's neon lights flickered in the distance like countless sleepless souls. My phone screen lit up. It was a message from my mother. Son, do you want to come home for a few days? I didn't reply. Life had to go on, and I needed to get used to the empty space beside me. I went back into the bedroom. Anna's side of the bed was perfectly smooth, not a single wrinkle. This was the 3rd time this month she hadn't come home. Before, when she worked late, I would bring her food. Now, I didn't even have the right to ask where she was. Our first meeting 7 years ago felt like yesterday. It was the beginning of senior year. She had burst into the computer lab, clutching a stack of books, crashing into my life like a gust of wind. Excuse me, can you help me? Her long hair was a little messy. My senior project needs some coding, but I don't know anything. Back then, her eyes always seemed to hold a light that could illuminate the whole world. Now, I don't know when that light went out. At 6 a.m., I woke up on schedule. I habitually made 2 cups of coffee, watching one of them cool as the sky brightened. At 7, I got dressed and ready to leave. The second breakfast on the table remained untouched. It had been 3 days since she asked for a divorce, and I had come back once to pack some clothes. She chose a time when I was in a meeting. We were so good at avoiding each other. At the office, work continued. The world of code is simple. It doesn't betray or deceive. But even the most complex algorithm is no match for the unpredictability of the human heart. Mr. Miller, could you look over this project proposal? My assistant Kevin's voice broke my train of thought. I took the document, but her face kept appearing on the page. 7 years of dating, 5 years of marriage. I thought I knew everything about her. Only now did I realize I had never truly understood her heart. At lunchtime, I went to the diner downstairs as usual. The owner, Maria, still habitually prepared 2 meals. Mr. Miller, is your wife not joining you today? She's been busy lately, I said, the excuse sounding feeble even to me. The diner was right across the street from her office building. It used to be our favorite lunch spot. Now, the distance of a single street felt like a world apart. Through the window, I saw her and Ethan walk into the French restaurant across the way. She was wearing the red dress we bought for our anniversary, her smile radiant. Your usual sandwich, Mr. Miller. Maria's voice brought me back. Extra spicy? I don't know when our life became like this meal, increasingly bland. Maybe I was too focused on work and neglected her feelings. Maybe I was too used to giving and forgot that love needs to be nurtured. A notification popped up on my computer screen. It was from Anna. I'm coming by at 6 to get some things. You don't need to be there. What a considered arrangement. I forced a smile and typed back, okay. Conversations like this had become more frequent lately. Short, cold, polite, like talking to a stranger. At 9 p.m., I went home anyway. The living room light was on. Her signature perfume hung in the air. A note was on the coffee table. I've taken most of my things. If I missed anything, I'll figure out later. I stood in front of her walk-in closet. It was empty. The house that was once filled with her laughter was now just silent. The furniture we picked out together, the decorations we arranged, all of it served as a silent reminder of the warmth that used to be. The picture frame on the nightstand was still there, holding our wedding photo. She was in a white dress, her face beaming with happiness. Back then, we truly believed love could conquer all. How naive that seems now. I picked up the frame, my fingertips tracing her face. In the photo, she was leaning on my shoulder as if it were her anchor for life. But now, she had chosen another shoulder. My phone vibrated again. This time was Ethan. Heard you agreed to the divorce. Thanks. Thanks for my cooperation, or thanks for my cowardice. I stared at the message, suddenly wanting to laugh out loud. But in the end, I said nothing. I just silently turned off my phone. The night deepened. I sat on the balcony, watching the city lights. Windows in the building across from ours went dark one by one, leaving only a few scattered specks of light. Once this was our favorite view. Look, she would always say excitedly, every light is a story. Yes, every light is a story. It's just that ours was about to be extinguished in this sea of lights. I stubbed out my cigarette, letting the night swallow me whole. Tomorrow, I had to go to the courthouse to file the papers. But for tonight, on this balcony that was once ours, I just wanted to hold on to the memories I was about to lose. The numbers on the elevator display ticked upwards, unhurried. It takes 40 seconds to get from the first to the 28th floor. Usually, that's enough time for me to compose myself for the day ahead. But today, those 40 seconds felt incredibly long because Anna was standing just ahead of me, and next to her was a sharply dressed Ethan. The air felt frozen. In the small, enclosed space, the only sound was the faint hum of the elevator. I stared at the changing numbers, pretending not to notice her discreetly linking her arm with Ethan's. Floor 18. Anna's office. Anna, I'll pick you up tonight. Ethan's gentle voice echoed in the elevator. The same tone I used with her 7 years ago when we first met. I looked at my reflection in the mirrored wall. My suit was crisp, my expression placid. This scene had played out 3 times in the past week. Each time, I was the perfect audience member, silently watching the whole performance. Floor 28. My floor. As I stepped out, Ethan called my name. Noah, can we talk? I stopped and turned to face my old friend. His eyes held an apology, but also the pity of a victor. There's nothing to talk about, I said calmly. Just take care of her. In the conference room, I mechanically flipped through a project report. The words were familiar, but I couldn't process any of them. Ethan's voice replayed in my head. Anna, I'll pick you up tonight. Mr. Miller, Kevin's voice broke through. Anna's firm sent over a change request for the joint project. I took the document. Her signature was on it, the handwriting neat, but with a deliberate, unfamiliar flourish. We had fought for this project together. Now, she was requesting a change of contact person. Follow procedure, I said, signing my name on the form. The tip of my pen accidentally tore the paper. During my lunch break, I habitually opened iMessage. The last message in our pinned conversation was from a week ago. Working late tonight, don't wait up. At the time, I didn't know what working late really meant. Looking back, her last act of gentleness was just a way to make the betrayal seem less abrupt. My phone rang. It was my mom. Noah, come home for dinner tonight. I made your favorite beef stew. Okay, I agreed immediately. Compared to the empty house, my mother's concern was a comfort. At 6 p.m., I packed up to leave. Through my office window, I could see Anna at her desk in the building across the street, also getting ready to leave. A familiar figure walked into her office. It was Ethan. They were laughing as they walked towards the elevator. As he looked up, our eyes met. Anna froze for a second, then quickly looked down as if avoiding something. I turned off my office light and walked to the elevator alone. The man in the reflection looked exhausted, but he was still trying to maintain his dignity. For the past week, I had been rehearsing how to lose with grace. My mother's home was as warm as ever. She chattered away as she usually did, piling food onto my plate. Eat more, you've gotten thinner. Mom, I said suddenly, if I hadn't forgiven her the first time she cheated, would things be different now? My mother's hand paused. 5 years ago, just before our wedding, Anna had wavered when Ethan moved back to the country. I had chosen to be understanding and forgiving. Son, my mother said softly, there's no right or wrong in matters of the heart. You did your best. I looked down and took a spoonful of stew. The savory taste filled my mouth. It was my favorite dish, but today I couldn't taste a thing. I got home at 9. I turned on the TV out of habit, switching to her favorite channel. A news segment was on about a couple celebrating their golden anniversary. That kind of lifelong commitment was once our shared dream. My phone buzzed. A text from Anna. I'll come get the rest of my things this weekend. I stared at the message for a long time before replying with a single okay. 5 years of marriage, dissolved by a few simple words. The night wind on the balcony was a bit chilly. I lit a cigarette and looked at the lights of the building across the way. I suddenly remembered her favorite song. We cried, we laughed, we looked up at the sky. The stars were still shining. But I couldn't see any stars now. The city's glow obscured everything. Just like her betrayal had obscured all our beautiful memories. Late at night, I lay in bed and instinctively reached for the nightstand where our wedding photo used to be. Now, there was only a faint outline on the wood. I realized the deepest hurt isn't the betrayal itself, but having to pretend that everything is normal afterward. Every chance encounter, every document, every text message was like a dull knife, repeatedly cutting into a heart that was already in pieces. 2 a.m. The hospital corridor was empty, a stark mix of antiseptic smells and harsh fluorescent lights that made it hard to breathe. The fluid dripped, one drop at a time, like a clock counting down a life. Son, stop staring. Go home and get some rest. My mother's voice was weak, coming from the hospital bed. She had lost so much weight in the last week. Even talking seemed to take an effort. I held her hand, afraid that if I let go, I would lose something forever. I'm not tired, Mom. You sleep. My phone vibrated. A text from Anna. I'm so sorry. Work has been crazy these last couple of days. I probably can't make it to the hospital. 5 days. She had only come once since my mother was admitted, and that was for a rushed 10 minutes. This was the same woman who used to shower my mother with gifts and supplements, who insisted on taking her for a walk in the park every week. Looking back, was any of that warmth genuine, or was it all just a performance? Anna's been really busy lately, my mother said softly. Don't be too hard on her. Even now, my mother was making excuses for her. I didn't know what to say, so I just quietly tucked her blanket in. Daybreak. I rushed back to the office for a 9 a.m. video conference. On the screen, the client representative was outlining new requirements. I took notes mechanically, but my mind was filled with the image of my mother's pale face. Mr. Miller, you look exhausted, Kevin said with concern after the meeting. Maybe you should take a few days off. I shook my head. Work was the only thing holding me together. If I let go of this, I was afraid I would fall apart. During my lunch break, I hurried to the hospital. A nurse was changing my mother's bag. She smiled when she saw me. Your mom is looking much better today. Son, my mother pointed to the nightstand. I had some lunch brought for you. It's your favorite, the pot roast. A lump formed in my throat. Even sick in the hospital, she was still thinking of me. I opened the container, and the rich aroma filled the room. Our neighbor, Mrs. Gable, had made it. What about Anna? My mother asked quietly. Is she not coming today? Just as I was about to answer, my phone rang. It was Anna. Noah, I have to entertain a client this afternoon. I know. I cut her off. You're busy. After I hung up, I saw the disappointment in my mother's eyes. She started to say something, but was overcome by a violent coughing fit. I quickly helped her sit up, a wave of bitterness washing over me. At 6 p.m, I stood by the hospital window. The setting sun painted the entire city in gold, making it look exceptionally warm. Anna should be getting off work around now. Through the window, I saw her and Ethan walk into the coffee shop across the street. Right? She was busy on a date with Ethan. Mr. Miller, a nurse came in. It's time for your mother's injection. I went back to the bed and watched my mother's brow furrow as the needle went in. She always said she wasn't afraid of pain, but her hand was clenched tightly around the bedsheet. Late at night, I dozed off in the recliner next to her bed. In a hazy dream, I heard my mother whispering, Anna, you have to take good care of Noah. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. I wished this was all just a nightmare, that I would wake up and see her bustling in the kitchen, hear her laughing with my mom. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Anna. It was Ethan. Heard your mom is in the hospital. Should I come visit? I stared at the message, a wave of nausea hitting me. Was this his idea of charity, or was he just flaunting his victory? No thanks, I replied. Just take care of Anna. The next morning, before work, I gave my mother a sponge bath and changed her sheets. The nurse said I was a natural, like a professional caregiver. Who would have thought the director of engineering at a major tech firm would now be a full-time caretaker? For lunch, I grabbed a sandwich from the convenience store near the office. I hadn't even finished it when the hospital called. Mr. Miller, your mother's condition has taken a turn. You need to come over right away. I dropped the sandwich and ran. In the elevator, I ran into Anna and Ethan. They were on their way to lunch. Seeing my frantic state, Anna showed a rare look of concern. Do you want me to go to the hospital with you? No, I said with a bitter smile. You two enjoy your date. In the hospital room, my mother's condition had stabilized. The doctor said it was a minor angina attack, nothing to worry about. But I knew this was just the beginning. For a terminal cancer patient, every day is a race against time. I'm sorry, Mom. I held her hand. It's all my fault. I couldn't give you a whole family. My mother shook her head, her voice frail. Silly boy, it's not your fault. Some things can't be forced. Late that night, I stood on the hospital rooftop and lit a cigarette. The distant neon lights were still brilliant. The city still bustled with life. But my world was crumbling piece by piece. The irony was, at this moment, I was almost grateful for Anna's departure. At least during my mother's final days, I didn't have to pretend to be happy anymore. I didn't have to spin a web of lies. But seeing the disappointment in my mother's eyes still sent a sharp pain through my heart. That morning, the sunlight was exceptionally bright. Noah, open the curtains. My mother's voice was soft, as if she were afraid of disturbing something. I want to see outside. I pushed open the window, and a spring breeze filled with the scent of flowers rushed into the room. My mother hadn't been this lucid in a long time. She gazed at the sycamore tree outside the window, a long-lost light in her eyes. The sun is so beautiful today, she said. I held her hand, feeling her warmth slowly fading. She had become so thin. Her wrist felt as delicate as a child's. Noah, she said suddenly, can you do one last thing for me? My heart clenched. It was the first time she had used the word last in front of me. Call Anna, she said, her eyes still fixed on the tree outside. There's something I want to say to her. I took out my phone and dialed the number I knew by heart. To my surprise, Anna answered. She said she would be right over. Half an hour later, she appeared at the doorway. She wasn't wearing heavy makeup today, just a simple white dress, looking just like she did when we first met. Mom, she whispered, her voice trembling. Come, sit here. My mother patted the side of the bed. Let me have a good look at you. Anna kept her head down, tears silently streaming down her face. My mother wiped them away. Silly girl, what are you crying for? I stood by the window, a mix of emotions churning inside me. Anna, my mother's voice was still gentle. All these years, it was I who wronged you. Anna looked up sharply, her face full of confusion. I love Noah too much, my mother continued. So I always took it for granted that you should love him the same way. But you can't force love. Mom, you don't have to explain, my mother interrupted. You're still young. You should chase the happiness you want. She paused. Don't forget that someone once truly loved you. I turned away, unable to bear the sight of the tears in my mother's eyes. Noah, my mother called me over. I walked to her bedside. She gripped my hand with all her remaining strength. Sometimes, letting go is the only real love. Her words struck me like a sledgehammer, shattering the last of my defenses. My mother understood everything. She'd just been waiting for me to figure it out on my own. Mom, my voice broke. It's all right, she smiled, a look of relief on her face. I'm tired. I want to sleep. We sat by her bed in silence, watching her slowly close her eyes. The sunlight streamed through the window, casting a warm golden glow on her face. The heart monitor suddenly beeped frantically, followed by a long, flat tone. Mom! I threw myself onto the bed, but it was too late. She was gone, with a smile on her face, looking as peaceful as if she were just sleeping. Anna was sobbing uncontrollably beside me, but I was strangely calm. I smoothed my mother's hair and pulled the blanket over her. I'm so sorry. Anna's voice was thick with guilt. I ignored her, just stood by the window looking at the sycamore tree outside. New buds were sprouting on its branches. Life goes on. The doctors and nurses rushed in, performing their routine resuscitation efforts. I knew it was futile. My mother was gone, taking her quiet strength and gentle love with her. It was evening by the time I finished all the paperwork. In the hospital corridor, the setting sun cast long shadows. Anna was still there. She wanted to say something, but I held up a hand to stop her. "You should go," I said, "and you don't need to come back." "No, I'm truly sorry." "Don't be." I cut her off. "You were right. Our marriage should have ended a long time ago." She stood there, stunned, as if she never expected me to say that. "But not because you fell in love with someone else," I continued, "but because you never really loved me in the first place." Tears welled up in her eyes. "That's not true." "Enough," I said, exhausted. "My mother is gone. The last tie between us is broken. My lawyer will send you the divorce papers tomorrow. Just sign them." With that, I turned and walked towards a morgue. I could hear her broken sobs behind me, but they no longer moved me. Her face was peaceful, as if she were asleep. I gently stroked her forehead, remembering what she used to say. "In this world, the people who shelter you from the storm will one day have to leave." "Mom," I whispered, "rest easy. I'll let go." Deep in the night, I sat alone on the hospital rooftop, lit a cigarette, and watched the city's myriad lights. I used to think love could conquer all. Now I understand that some things, once lost, are lost forever. Like my mother's life, and like the woman I once loved so deeply. They will become the deepest scars in my memory, and I can finally let go of all my attachments and start a new life. My phone vibrated. A text from Ethan. "My condolences. Do you need me to bring Anna to the service?" I didn't reply. I just silently deleted his number. Some people aren't worth keeping in your memory. 3 days after my mother's funeral, I started packing. The whole process was surprisingly calm, as if I were packing up a stranger's belongings. Her clothes still hung in the closet, her skincare products still sat on the vanity, and her signature perfume still lingered in the air. But none of it had anything to do with me anymore. In a cabinet in the living room, I found a long-forgotten cardboard box. Inside were our wedding photos, the wedding video, and all the pictures we had taken over the years. On top was a family photo from last Christmas at my mother's house. She was leaning on my shoulder, her smile so bright. It turns out she had been gathering evidence for a long time. In a video folder, I found a surveillance clip from 3 months ago. In it, Anna and Ethan were having dinner at an upscale restaurant. She had told me she was working late that night. I had even ordered takeout and had it delivered to her office. My computer held more of their chat logs, photos from their dates, and even order confirmation for an engagement ring. So, on the day she asked me for a divorce, Ethan already had everything planned. I neatly organized all this evidence into a folder, intending to give it to her when she signed the papers. Not to hurt her, but to let her know that my calmness wasn't weakness, but the clarity of having seen the truth long ago. In a desk drawer in the study, I found an old photo. It was from our college days. Our backs as we sat side by side in the library, our figures as we chased each other on the track field, a candid shot of her smiling in the cafeteria. Those innocent, sincere times felt like a lifetime ago. Suddenly, a photo slipped out from the album. It was from our engagement party. My mother was putting a necklace on her. It was my mother's own, a family heirloom passed down for 3 generations. I remember my mother saying, "Anna, from now on, you're my daughter." A sharp pain pierced my chest. I remember my mother's last words. Sometimes, letting go is the only real love. Yes, I'd held on for so long. It was time to let go. Packing up the master bedroom, I found a diary in a hidden compartment of the nightstand. It was Anna's. The first entry was from 3 years ago. "I keep dreaming of Ethan lately. I know it's wrong, but why does my heart still flutter? I have such a good husband, but the better he is, the more suffocated I feel." I flipped to the last page, dated a month ago. Ethan said he wants to take me to Paris to propose under the Eiffel Tower. That was my dream when I was 18. But can I really throw away everything I have now? Noah, I'm so sorry. I closed the diary, feeling strangely calm. The marriage I had fought so hard to protect had been a game of self-deception from the very beginning. When I got to the walk-in closet, most of her clothes were gone. The ones left were all things we had bought together. She used to always say, "Whatever my husband buys for me fits best." I wonder now how much of that was true. In the back of a cabinet, I found a pink box. Inside were seashells we collected on our honeymoon in Hawaii. She had said she would treasure them forever. They had long been forgotten in a corner. Just like our vows, they couldn't withstand the test of time. As I was finishing up, Anna suddenly appeared at the door. She was wearing a black dress, probably chosen for the occasion. "Let me help you pack." Her voice was soft. "No need." I continued organizing the items in my hand. "I've already sorted your things." She didn't move from the living room, just leaned against the doorframe, watching me. "Noah, I'm really sorry for everything." I stopped what I was doing and turned to face her. "Don't apologize. It makes me sound pathetic." "I didn't mean it like that," she explained hurriedly. Just what?" I cut her off. "You feel guilty? Or you want to give yourself a perfect farewell?" "Anna, have you ever thought that every time you say you're sorry, you're just reminding me of how foolish I once was?" She stood frozen, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Enough," I said, tired. "The papers will be signed tomorrow. You don't need to come back." "But there's—" "No buts," I said. "You're free. Go live the life you want." She finally turned and left, the sound of her heels echoing down the hallway. This time, I didn't chase after her to comfort her. Some paths must be walked alone. On the last day of my move, I ran into Anna in the elevator. She stood in the corner, her gaze avoidant, her fingers nervously twisting. It was the first time we had seen each other since the divorce. She looked like she wanted to say something, but ended up just silently watching the numbers on the display change. I was carrying my last box. I walked out of the elevator without a second glance. I heard her quick footsteps behind me. "Noah, wait." I didn't stop. Over the past month, I had learned how to ignore her. "Noah," her voice was tinged with tears. "Can we talk?" I stopped and looked at the woman I once loved so deeply. "What is there to talk about?" "Ethan." She bit her lip, hesitating. "That has nothing to do with me." I turned to leave. "He wants to take me to Paris," she said suddenly. "Next week." My hand trembled slightly. Paris. That was the place she had always wanted to go. I had been saving up for years, planning to surprise her for our 7th anniversary. Now another man would make that dream come true. "Congratulations," I said, and started walking again. But she hurried to catch up. "I just feel like something's off. Everything he says is perfect. Everything he does is so thoughtful." But what?" I stopped. "It's not what you think." She looked down. "Yesterday he told me I should quit my job. He said women don't need to work so hard. But you never." "Anna." I cut her off. "Are you having second thoughts now?" She looked up sharply, her eyes glistening with tears. "I don't know. I just suddenly miss my old life. I miss the coffee you used to make. I miss—" "Enough." I took a deep breath. "Go back. Ethan is waiting for you." As I turned to leave, I heard her suppressed sobs. There was a time when that sound would have made me drop everything to comfort her. Now, I just found it ironic. A week later, Mrs. Gable called. "Noah, Anna has been coming over to my place a lot lately. She just sits there for hours. Yesterday, she asked me how you were doing." "Mrs. Gable," I said softly, "if she comes again, just tell her you don't know." But Mrs. Gable sighed. She seems to really regret it. I hung up the phone and looked around my new, empty apartment. The walls were bare, and there were still unpacked boxes on the floor. But this simple life felt peaceful. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. It was a young woman from Anna's office. "Mr. Miller?" "Anna fainted in a meeting today." My heart lurched, but I quickly composed myself. "Where's her boyfriend?" "Mr. Carter is on a business trip," she said, sounding troubled. "And Anna said she doesn't want him to know." I was silent for a moment. "Take her to the hospital. And make sure you tell Ethan." After hanging up, I lit a cigarette. Through the smoke, I remembered her last words. "I don't want him to know." Such a familiar scenario. It used to be me she would turn to first for everything. The next day, as I was passing by our old coffee shop, I saw her through the window. She was sitting alone in the corner, a cup of black coffee on the table, just staring out the window. That was our spot. Every weekend morning, I would order her a black coffee with 2 sugars. I didn't go in. I just walked past, but I still heard the waitress say, "Miss, your coffee is getting cold." "That's fine," she said softly. "Leave it." In that moment, I suddenly understood. She was finally tasting what I had tasted back then. A cold cup of coffee, like a love that has grown cold, can never be warmed up again. When I got home that evening, there was a paper bag by my door. Inside was an old scarf and a note. Found this while packing. Returning it to you. I recognized it. It was the scarf my mother had knitted for me. There was a spot where she had dropped a stitch, but she had insisted on leaving it, saying it gave the scarf character. There was a time when this scarf had also kept her warm. My phone rang again. It was a text from Ethan. Heard you're still concerned about Anna. I looked at the message and couldn't help but scoff. I deleted the text and put the scarf in the back of my closet. Some things are best left buried in memory. I heard Anna and Ethan had a fight. Kevin dropped this piece of news while handing me a project report. I didn't look up from the document I was signing. Not my problem. But, Mr. Miller, he hesitated. Miss Lynn has been coming to the coffee shop downstairs every day. I stopped writing and looked out the window. Sure enough, she was there again in the same window seat, her gaze lost somewhere in the direction of our building. This was the third time this week. Focus on your work, I said, closing the folder and dismissing him. No sooner had Kevin left than Mrs. Gable called. Noah, did you hear? Anna and that Carter fellow are on the rocks. I replied curtly. I saw them arguing at the supermarket the other day. Mrs. Gable lowered her voice. That man was telling Anna she should quit her job and be a housewife, and that she should cut ties with all her old friends. Anna just blew up at him. My hand trembled slightly, but my voice remained steady. Mrs. Gable, that has nothing to do with us anymore. After hanging up, I walked to the window. In the coffee shop below, Anna's seat was empty. All that was left on the table was an untouched cup of black coffee, just like the other day. On my way out of work, I ran into Ethan in the elevator again. His suit was impeccable, but it couldn't hide the fatigue in his eyes. He forced a smile when he saw me. Noah, got a minute? I silently followed him to the smoking area. He pulled out a cigarette and offered it to me with a practiced elegance. No, thanks. He lit his cigarette. You know how Anna is. Stubborn, doesn't like to be managed. I just want what's best for her, but she never understands. Doesn't understand what? I asked coldly. Your need to control or your self-righteousness? He froze for a second, then gave a bitter smile. You really do still care about her? No. I looked him straight in the eye. I just care about basic human respect. Anna may have her flaws, but she's not your property. With that, I turned and left. I heard his voice behind me. She's been bringing you up a lot lately. I didn't turn back. I walked straight to the elevator. The next morning, the front desk called. Mr. Miller, a Miss Evans is here to see you. I glanced at the time. It was only 7 a.m. Tell her to go home. But the receptionist hesitated. She says if you don't see her, she'll wait all day. I sighed and headed for the elevator. In the lobby, Anna's face was pale and makeup-free. She stood up when she saw me, but seemed at a loss for words. What is it? I asked. She bit her lip. I came to apologize. I frowned. That's not necessary. No, I have to say it. Her voice trembled. This whole time, I've only just realized how much you put up with me. I thought Ethan could give me the life I wanted, but it was just a fantasy. Anna, I cut her off. You don't need to compare me to him. I know. Tears streamed down her face. I just want to tell you that I finally understand what real love is. But it's too late, isn't it? I looked at the woman I once loved so deeply, my heart strangely calm. Let the past be the past. Noah, she suddenly looked up. If we could start over. There are no ifs. I took a step back. Because I'm not the man I used to be. As I turned, I heard her suppressed sobs. There was a time when that sound would have broken my heart. Now I just wanted to get away. Back in my office, I saw a message from Mrs. Gable. Noah, do you remember? When you two got married, Anna said the thing she loved most about you was your kindness. Looking back now, maybe that kindness was the happiness she was looking for all along. I looked out at the morning light and suddenly understood. Some people are destined to be just passers-by in your life. They come only to teach you how to grow. That evening, I found another paper bag by my door. Inside was a stack of photos, all memories from our years together. On top was a picture from our wedding. I was gently wiping a tear from the corner of her eye. We both thought that was happiness. Only now do I realize that happiness is not a perfect fantasy. It's mutual understanding and forgiveness in the ordinary moments of life. I put the photos in the deepest drawer of my desk. Some memories don't need to be deleted, nor do they need to be revisited often. Just like some people don't need to be forgotten, but they need to be let go so you can move forward.